I used to think that if you kept a secret long enough, it would get easier to carry. Like a backpack you wore every day until it just became part of you. Heavy, sure, but familiar. I didn't realize then that some secrets aren't like backpacks. They're like wounds you never clean. You can hide them under layers of clothes and smiles, but underneath, they keep festering until one day, someone rips the covering off and you're left exposed, bleeding, and wondering why you ever thought you could keep it to yourself. My secret wasn't the kind you could casually drop into conversation. It wasn't something you'd brag about on social media or whisper to your best friend during a sleepover. It was my medical condition, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a rare connective tissue disorder that made my skin bruise like a peach, my joints slip out of place without warning, and pain. Constant pain. An unwelcome companion in every moment of my life. To anyone else, it might have just been another diagnosis on a chart, but to me, it was a label I refused to wear. High school is brutal enough without giving people a reason to see you as fragile, as broken, as other. And I knew that if word got out, that's exactly how they'd see me. So I learned to hide it. Long sleeves, even in the middle of May, to cover the bruises blooming along my arms. Carefully chosen excuses for sitting out of gym class, a twisted ankle here, an old injury there, sometimes bad asthma on humid days. I kept braces and wraps tucked into the back of my locker, hidden under stacks of books. I even mastered the art of silently popping a shoulder back into place without anyone noticing, clenching my teeth so hard I sometimes gave myself headaches. Only my parents and doctors knew the truth. Not even my best friend, Lena. And Lena. She was the kind of friend people envied. The kind who seemed to have a permanent spotlight on her, drawing everyone in without even trying. We'd been inseparable since 4th grade, when she'd offered me half her chocolate pudding after mine landed face first on the cafeteria floor. She had this way of making me feel like the most interesting person in the room, even though she was the one who always had a crowd around her. She was fearless where I was cautious, loud where I was quiet. If there was a party, she was invited. If there was gossip, she knew it before anyone else. And somehow, through all of that, she chose me as her person. I used to think that meant she knew me better than anyone, but in reality, she only knew the version of me I'd carefully curated. The healthy me. The me who didn't wince when her joints slipped. The me who could keep up, or at least pretend to. Freshman year passed without a hitch. Sophomore year too. My secret stayed locked up tight, and I thought I'd figured it out, how to live two lives without letting them collide. But junior year was when the cracks started to show. It was little things at first. A sharp twinge in my wrist when I grabbed my biology notebook too fast, making me flinch just enough for Lena to notice. A near fall during gym when my knee buckled without warning, forcing me to laugh it off while her brow furrowed in confusion. I could feel her curiosity building, but I told myself she let it go. She had other things to think about: cheer practice, college prep, her revolving door of weekend plans. Then came that Friday night in October. Lena had been begging me to go to this party for weeks. "It's gonna be epic," she said, her eyes wide with excitement. "Practically the whole junior class will be there. You have to come." I hated parties, the noise, the crowds, the unpredictability. But Lena could be relentless when she wanted something, and eventually, I caved. The moment we stepped inside, the bass from the speakers rattled in my chest. People were packed shoulder to shoulder in the living room, laughing, shouting over the music. I stuck close to Lena, trying not to get jostled. It happened so fast, I barely had time to react. Someone bumped me hard from behind, and my shoulders slid out of place instantly. Pain shot down my arm like lightning. I mumbled something about needing the bathroom and slipped away, cradling my arm. Inside, I locked the door, or at least I thought I did, and tried to push my shoulder back in. My hands were shaking, my breath coming in short, shallow bursts. The door swung open, and there was Lena. Her eyes widened. What's wrong with you?" I froze, caught between panic and relief. I'd imagined telling her 100 times before, in a quiet, controlled setting where I could explain everything and she'd nod and promise to keep my secret safe. Not like this. Not with my face pale and my shoulder out of place. So I told her. I gave her the short version, the name of my condition, the basics of what it meant, why I kept it to myself. My voice shook the whole time, my stomach twisted in knots. She didn't hug me. She didn't say she understood. She just raised her eyebrows and said, "Wow, that's crazy." I mean, I guess that explains a lot. There was something in her tone I couldn't quite place. Not pity, not comfort. Something colder. I told myself she just needed time to process. That she'd come around. I didn't know that night was the beginning of the end. Because from that moment on, my secret wasn't mine anymore. It was hers. And she wasn't going to protect it. She was going to weaponize it. Over the weekend, Lena didn't text me once. It was weird. Normally, if we weren't hanging out, she was spamming me with memes, funny TikToks, or updates about whatever drama was happening in her neighborhood. I kept checking my phone, half expecting a message saying something like, "Hey, about the other night. I'm sorry if I acted weird." But nothing came. By Monday morning, the pit in my stomach was gnawing at me. I walked into school, scanning the hall for her familiar blonde ponytail. She was already at my locker, leaning against it like she owned the place, grinning. "Hey," she said brightly, too brightly, like we hadn't just spent 2 days avoiding each other. "Hey," I replied cautiously. "I've been thinking about what you told me," she said. My grip tightened on the strap of my backpack. Yeah. It's wild you've kept it a secret this long. But don't worry, I haven't told anyone. Yet. That word, yet, slammed into me like ice water. I must have looked startled, because she laughed and added, "Relax. I'm just saying. Maybe it's good for people to know. You could get like special treatment, extra time on tests, skipping pay without lame excuses." And she leaned closer, lowering her voice. "It'd make you interesting. People love a sob story." I stared at her, unsure if she was joking. Her eyes were too sharp for it to be a joke. "I don't want people to know," I said firmly. She shrugged. Okay. Your call." But over the next week, she started dropping hints. In English, when a classmate accidentally bumped my desk, she blurted, "Careful, she's fragile," with a laugh. At lunch, she told someone, "You wouldn't believe how easily she bruises, like, one time I barely tapped her arm and she had this massive purple mark." People chuckled, but I could feel their eyes on me, curious, studying me like I was suddenly something different. I tried to play it off, but deep down, I could feel the walls I'd built around my secret starting to crack. Then one Thursday afternoon, I walked into the cafeteria and stopped cold. Lena was sitting at a table with a group of juniors I barely knew, laughing loudly. She had her arms bent in weird angles, mimicking the way my elbow sometimes hyperextends without warning. They were all cracking up. Heat rushed to my face. I turned and walked out before she noticed me. That night, I called her. "Why are you telling people?" I asked, my voice shaking, not from fear, but from anger. "Oh my God, relax," she said, irritation lacing her voice. "It's not like I'm saying anything bad. It's just interesting. And honestly, you act like it's some huge scandal. You're not dying. It's just a medical thing. Just a medical thing." As if the years of hiding, the daily pain, the constant calculations to avoid injury, none of it mattered. "I'm serious, Lena. I don't want people knowing." She sighed dramatically. "Fine. Whatever. I won't." She didn't mean it. If anything, she doubled down. She started calling me porcelain in front of people, sometimes glass girl. At first, they thought it was cute, even affectionate. But soon, the nicknames took on a sharp edge. "Hey, porcelain, don't carry that. You might snap in half. Watch out, glass girl's on the move." Laughter always followed. It wasn't just the teasing. It was the way people started treating me differently. In group projects, no one would let me lift anything heavier than a pencil case. In pay, kids stared when I sat out, whispering that I was faking it. One afternoon, I was in the bathroom when two girls walked in, not realizing I was in a stall. I heard her bones pop out all the time. One said, like, just randomly. That's so gross. No way. The other replied, why even come to school if you're that messed up? I pressed my hands over my mouth, willing myself not to cry until they left. When they did, I stared at my reflection in the mirror, my eyes red-rimmed. I looked small. But Lena? She was thriving. She still walked up to me in the hallway, smiling, hugging me, telling me to ignore the haters. I didn't understand then that she was the one feeding them. The final straw that month came during a school assembly. As everyone filed into the gym, Lena grabbed my arm. Come sit in the front with me. I'm fine here, I said. But she was already pulling me toward the front row. The guest speaker was talking about overcoming challenges, and at one point, he asked if anyone knew someone living with a difficulty no one could see. Before I could react, Lena's hand shot up. Yeah, she said, loud enough for the microphone to catch. My best friend has this thing where her joints pop out all the time. It's super rare. And then she pointed right at me. The entire gym turned to stare. I could feel the heat creeping up my neck, my heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear the rest of what the speaker said. I wanted to disappear, sink into the floor, anything but sit there under hundreds of eyes. The speaker smiled at me like I was an inspiring hero. The rest of the students just whispered to each other, their expressions a mix of curiosity, pity, and something uglier. That was the moment I realized Lena wasn't just ignoring my boundaries. She was taking ownership of my story. And she wasn't telling it to help me. She was telling it to use me. If I thought the assembly was rock bottom, I was wrong. It was only the opening act. Over the next week, whispers followed me everywhere. Sometimes I caught snippets. Did you hear her shoulder popped out in science class? Or, she can't even run without breaking something. Half of it was made up. The other half came from Lena. I knew because I started overhearing her. I'd turn a corner and there she'd be, leaning against a locker with that fake, concerned voice, telling someone, yeah, I just try to be there for her. It's hard, you know? She can't do normal stuff. But I don't judge. She was painting herself as my savior. And then she turned it into a game. It started one Friday when I walked into the cafeteria and felt something off. The room went quieter than usual. Then a ripple of laughter moved through the tables. Lena was sitting with a group, holding up her phone, showing them something. When she spotted me, her face lit up like she was thrilled to see me. Hey, Porcelain. Over here, she called. My stomach dropped. She spun the phone toward me so I could see the screen. It was an Instagram account I'd never seen before. The profile picture was a cartoon of a glass doll with cracks running through her arms and legs. The username? At How Fragile-ish. The bio read, guess what will break her next? My mouth went dry. There were already posts, photos from school, clearly taken without me knowing. One was of me sitting out during pay, captioned, Round 3. Will it be her ankle or her wrist this time? Place your bets. Another was a zoomed-in shot of my elbow bent too far backward while I was writing, with the caption, Ew, does that look normal to you? The comments were worse. People I saw every day had written things like, I bet she can't even open a jar, and $10 says she faints if she trips. I turned to Lena, my voice shaking. What is this? She grinned like it was some big joke. Oh my God, relax. It's just for fun. We're not saying anything that isn't true. Plus, no one knows it's you unless they already know. Lena, that's literally me in the pictures. She shrugged. Well, yeah, but I don't know, it's entertaining. People are into it. You should be flattered. You're basically going viral at school. Viral. Like my pain was a punchline. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the post in my head. each one a reminder of how easily my life could be twisted into entertainment. I thought about reporting the account, but I knew Lena would find out it was me and retaliate. She had too much influence, too many people who believed she was this sweet, supportive friend. But the account didn't just fade away. It grew. By the next week, at How Fragilish had over 200 followers, almost the entire junior class. They started making bets in the comments about what injury I'd get next or which joint would pop out during a given week. And then came the challenges. People started dropping things in front of me to see if I'd pick them up. In science, a guy accidentally knocked over a beaker near my workstation, then whispered to his friend, "Let's see if she bends down." In the hallway, someone bumped my shoulder harder than necessary, then laughed when I winced. It wasn't just cruel, it was dangerous. My condition wasn't a joke. If I moved wrong or overextended, I could seriously hurt myself. But now, instead of helping me avoid that, people were trying to trigger it for laughs. One afternoon, I walked into the library and found Lena and two other girls at a table. They were scrolling through her phone, giggling. When they noticed me, Lena said, "Hey, porcelain smile," and snapped a picture before I could react. The caption went up 10 minutes later. Level unlocked. The library sighting. That was the breaking point. I left school early that day, telling the nurse I had a headache. Really, I just couldn't stand another minute of pretending I was okay. When I got home, I sat on my bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'd gotten here. How the girl who once swore she was my ride or die had turned into my worst nightmare. The next morning, I decided I had to confront her directly. No more pretending, no more hoping she'd stop on her own. But when I found her at her locker, she just smiled sweetly like nothing was wrong. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "About what?" she asked, feigning innocence. "That account. The pictures. It stops now." Her smile twitched. "Or what? Or I'll tell the principal." She let out a low laugh. "Go ahead. Who's gonna believe you? You've been telling everyone we're best friends for years. I'm just looking out for you." I could easily say you gave me permission to post those. I realized in that moment that she'd thought of everything. She wasn't just careless, she was calculating. And she wasn't going to stop until she got bored. But something inside me shifted then. If she thought I was going to roll over and let her control my story, she was wrong. For the next 2 weeks, I played along. Not in a way that made me complicit, but in a way that made Lena think I'd given up. I stopped confronting her. I stopped reacting when she posted a new level of her cruel game. I even laughed weakly when people made porcelain jokes in the hallway, as if I'd accepted my role as the school's fragile punchline. Inside, though, I was paying attention. I was watching her every move. Lena liked control, but she liked attention even more. She couldn't resist bragging, especially when she thought she was untouchable. I started noticing patterns. She always uploaded new posts during lunch, and her captions had a specific tone, like she wanted people to think she was clever, not mean. She thought she was walking some fine line between funny and cruel. But in reality, it was just cruelty wrapped in fake concern. The real break came one afternoon when I overheard her in the girls' bathroom. She was talking to her new sidekick, a junior named Chloe. "I swear, she's such a drama queen," Lena said, her voice echoing against the tile. "One time in 8th grade, she acted like her arm was broken just because it hurt for a day. I had to carry her books for a week." Chloe laughed. "You're so nice for still hanging out with her." "Oh, trust me, it's charity at this point," Lena replied. "She should be grateful I keep her relevant." That was it. The final snap in whatever thread of loyalty I'd still been holding on to. I left the bathroom quietly, but my heart was pounding. If she wanted to play a game, I could play too. But my game wouldn't be about mocking someone's body. It would be about revealing who Lena really was when no one was watching. The first thing I did was start documenting everything. Screenshots of the at How Fragilish account. Clips of her mocking me when she thought no teachers were around. Messages she'd sent me that hinted at the fact she knew exactly how much she was hurting me. I even recorded a couple of our conversations from behind the stacks in the library, my phone hidden in my sleeve, catching her voice as she joked about betting on my joints like it was a sports pool. The second step was harder. I had to build allies. Not friends exactly, but people who disliked Lena enough to keep their mouths shut about what I was doing. That's how I ended up talking to Harper. Harper wasn't popular. She wasn't even in my friend group. But she used to be in Lena's, until Lena had turned on her sophomore year for no apparent reason. The fallout was brutal. Harper went from posting selfies with Lena every weekend to eating lunch in the art room alone. When I told her what Lena was doing to me, Harper's face went cold. "I believe you," she said without hesitation. "She's done it before. She just never had a whole school watching." Together, we came up with a plan, one that would take weeks to pull off. The first move was subtle. We made a fake account, not to post anything cruel, but to follow at How Fragile-ish and publicly comment in ways that pushed her into being bolder, meaner, and more obviously malicious. Comments like, "You should totally post that video from yesterday in the hall," or "Make a poll for which bung will snap next." At first, Lena just liked the comments. But then she started taking the suggestions. The posts got nastier. The captions less playful and more openly mocking. She thought she was giving her audience what they wanted. In reality, she was building a public record of harassment that no one could write off as a joke anymore. The second move came from Harper. She had a knack for digging up old content, and within a few days, she'd found some gold, screenshots from Lena's private Snapchat stories, months before all this started, where she'd made fun of other girls' weight, outfits, and family situations. The hypocrisy was glaring. Lena always presented herself as the nice girl who hated bullying, but here she was, doing it behind closed doors. We waited until the perfect moment, the winter pep rally. Half the school would be in the gym, and the rest would see whatever blew up on their phones within minutes. That morning, Harper uploaded a compilation video. It started with screenshots from at How Fragile-ish, then moved into the secret Snapchat posts, then ended with the audio clips of Lena mocking me and laughing about my condition. The final slide read, "This is your kind classmate. This is your friend." We didn't post it under our names. It came from an anonymous account that no one could trace back to us. The reaction was instant. By lunch, people weren't laughing at me anymore. They were staring at Lena. Some confronted her directly. Others just unfollowed her, quietly but noticeably. She tried to claim it was all taken out of context, but the evidence was too much. The captions, the videos, the tone, it all spoke for itself. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. But I didn't feel victorious. Not yet. Because Lena still had one weapon left. The fact that, deep down, I had once trusted her with the most vulnerable parts of myself. And if she decided to use that against me, the fallout could be worse than anything she'd already done. For the first few days after the video dropped, Lena went silent. No cryptic posts. No fragile girl jokes. No smug stares in the hallway. It was almost unsettling. But by Thursday, she made her move. That morning, I walked into first period and felt every pair of eyes turn toward me. Some kids were trying not to look. Others stared openly, their faces twisted in curiosity or pity. On my desk was a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it slowly, and my stomach dropped. Inside was a printed screenshot, my private medical history. A cropped photo from a form I'd filled out for the school nurse last year. My diagnosis was circled in red. At the bottom, in handwriting I knew too well, were 3 words. Now they know. By lunch, whispers were everywhere. Some people were actually sympathetic, but others. They treated me like I was contagious, like my bones might crack just by sitting too close. It was exactly the nightmare I'd been trying to avoid for years, being reduced to nothing but the thing wrong with me. And Lena? She was back to smiling. She didn't say a word to me directly, but I saw her leaning against the lockers, talking to a group of girls with that same bright, fake laugh. She wanted me to know this wasn't over. But here's the thing about shatter points, they're not always the end. Sometimes they're the moment you stop trying to keep the glass together and just let it break. I'd been careful before. Strategic. Subtle. But she'd crossed a line, and I wasn't going to tiptoe anymore. That night, I logged into the anonymous account Harper and I had made. I uploaded one last post, not a compilation, not a tease, but the full truth. A video of me, speaking directly into the camera. I told them about my condition. I told them why I'd hidden it, not because I was ashamed, but because I didn't want it to be my entire identity. I told them how Lena had found out and used it as a weapon, and I showed every screenshot, every video, every note she'd left me. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. I wanted people to see my face when I said it, the exhaustion, the anger, the hurt, and the resolve. I ended the video with this. You don't have to like me. But if you think this is okay, maybe you're more fragile than you think. The video spread faster than anything else had. By the next morning, I wasn't just porcelain girl anymore. I was the girl who fought back. Some people apologized. Some didn't, but they stopped laughing. And Lena? Her parents were called in by the school. She lost her spot as student council vice president. Colleges she'd been bragging about were suddenly reconsidering her application. But most importantly, she lost her audience. She didn't talk to me again, not even to deny it. She just avoided me, the way people do when they can't stand to see someone who knows the truth about them. It wasn't some perfect fairy tale ending. There were still people who stared, still rumors that floated around. But I didn't flinch anymore. Because now, if people knew about my condition, it was because I told them. Not her. Not anyone else. The glass had shattered. And maybe I was still fragile, but I learned something important. Even the most fragile things can cut deep if you try to break them.